are you here to debate?
Yes.
All right, what's your name, age, and pronouns?
My name is Gabriel. My age is 32, and I don't really do the whole pronouns thing.
I'm sorry, could you say that last sentence again?
I said I don't really do the whole pronouns thing. I don't really believe in all that crap.
Can you tell me that without using a pronoun in the sentence?
I really am just here to have a discussion about Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Can we do that?
Sure, I just wanted to point out that I is a pronoun. So when you said you don't use pronouns, you do. Are you going to vote for the enemy of the people, Donald Trump?
I am.
And why?
Honestly, a lot of it has to just do with personal experience. I know a lot of people say this, but under Trump, I did feel like things were more affordable. Things seem to be going in the right direction. I'm not overly involved in politics, so I'm not going to try and quote every single little policy or every single thing he did. I'm just going by my day-to-day life in general, if that makes sense, and kind of
Sure,
just
I
how things
think
work.
I think one of the issues that tends to happen is when people say this, they're making a causation and correlation mix up here. They're saying that just because they did better under Trump, that Trump was the cause, but there's no correlation here because Trump didn't pass any significant policies, especially in his first 2 years, that would have led to
Yeah,
Americans
sub
doing
on
better.
Twitch,
Right.
nice.
So typically what we see when it comes to presidents and when it comes to like the economy, that the first 2 years of a president's term is handling the economy of the president before. So Donald Trump didn't
Right.
push through any significant policies that would have helped middle to lower class America. We just saw these come around because of Obama era policies that Obama passed to get us out of the 2008 recession.
All right. Well, let me ask you this then, because under Obama, we saw similar inflation. I mean, gas prices were up to $3 a gallon as well, just like it still is
Yeah,
today.
during the recession.
Things. No, this is after 2008. Everything else like that. This was the last 4 years of Obama.
Well, we didn't
So
see level offs from the recession until 2012. That's when we started to see the recession that's when we saw like the massive decline in the recession. When it comes to gas prices, the reason we saw consistently decreasing gas prices under Trump was because of COVID. Because of COVID, less people were driving, so gas like plummeted. Then what happened is Trump made a deal with OPEC, specifically with Saudi Arabia and Russia, to have them
mm,
reduce production so that the gas prices would go back up. This happened in
okay,
April of 2020. He made that deal with OPEC.
okay. Well, like I said, I'm not expert in a lot of this stuff. I mean, a lot of this is just kind of going by, I guess, what I've seen, what I've heard. Again, it's more of a personal experience because I honestly do my best to try and stay out of politics, but I will say that things are definitely pretty crazy now. Um, so, in regards to Kamala Harris, not to try and redirect or anything like that, I'm just trying to be civil. What I've seen with Kamala Harris is that from the start of her campaign, as president, it's been using a lot of stories and a lot of kind of misinformation. And the only reason why I say misinformation is because many of the things she said, so for example, Project 2025 and the federal ban on abortion, those were already debunked.
So I
And
would
yet,
disagree.
even after,
I would disagree that those have been debunked. A few, just to
well,
touch on them really quickly. Project 2025 directly links over 100 people on its staff to former White House staffers, specifically under the Trump administration. So people that worked for Donald Trump are working on Project 2025. Trump spoke at the Heritage Foundation and first of all, he implemented over 50% of the Heritage Foundation's 2015 plan. So
mm,
their I guess you could call it Project 2016 if you want to, but that's not what it was called. But he implemented over 50% of the policies that they put forth for him in 2016. So when he was like, "Well, I don't know who the Heritage Foundation is," this was a blatant lie. He worked with them. He spoke at a Heritage Foundation fundraiser and literally said that the Heritage Foundation is going to be they're going to help shape the future of America and the future administrations. JD Vance wrote the foreword for the book of the guy who like helped champion and write Project 2025. And the thing about Project 2025 is Project 2025 isn't directly saying what Trump is going to do. It's saying what the Republican representatives who get into office that are backed by the Heritage Foundation are going to do when Trump becomes president. So this is what they
Okay,
plan to
but
do
see,
under his presidency.
then that's where the problem is because that Kamala, and I've heard her say it, there's been videos of it, and Tim Walz, they don't word it the way that you just worded it. They say Trump's Project 2025.
Yeah, I'd say
And
it's I think calling
well,
it
one
Trump's
second,
is
please,
okay.
please, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So what I've seen and what I've read, and I've looked into the Heritage Group as far as their actual page and the project itself, the enormously long project, there is no actual evidence that connects Trump to the project. There's nothing
Except
that
all the
credits his
people.
name, anything else like that. Even the leader of the Heritage Group came out and said it wouldn't make much sense for the president to be involved in that project. He said that they wouldn't really, it would kind of defeat the purpose of it. So I kind of go by that. But again, it's a lot of the wording that's used as well. Because like I said, Kamala, the news, Hillary, everyone is still saying it's Trump's Project 2025. They're not saying former staff members of Trump. They're not saying it's a Republican Party. They're specifically tying Trump to that policy, to that project.
Yeah, so I would probably tie Trump directly to it when, again, he's spoken at the Heritage Foundation and said that they're going to create they're basically going to create the path for our future as a country. His former staffers worked on it, including his current press secretary, like the person currently working with his campaign. Multiple people on his campaign have worked with the Heritage Foundation. I think to say that, like, when Trump says, I don't know what the Heritage Foundation is, I don't believe that. I think it's just a flat out lie because there are all these dots connecting him to it. And again, when it comes
he
to
doesn't know what Project 2025 is.
Yeah, I
he
think
knows
that's a
about
lie.
the Heritage Foundation.
I think that's a lie.
He knows what that is. But
Yeah,
again,
I think he's doing what he does all the time,
you
which is
yourself, excuse me, sorry. You yourself just said that you believe, based on this and that Trump is tied to it. But again, there's still no actual evidence connected into it, just coincidence, conjecture, everything else like that. But there's nothing that says brought to you by Trump, or Trump had a hand in writing it, or Trump advised on it, or anything else like that. So with that, I mean, all I can say is I get where you're coming from. I get the evidence that you're trying to provide, but even so, it's still open to interpretation, and there's nothing definitive tying him to it.
Yeah, again, I would say what ties him to it is all the stuff that I've mentioned. 100% ties him to it.
Is other people who used to work for him and everything else are
and
part
him.
of it, and they're part of the Republican Party.
Well,
but
and him and him specifically.
Propaganda and the misinformation that's being spread is that Trump is basically the head of it, is that it's his project. That's where here's the thing. Gets skewed and
here's the thing. If you
because,
want to,
again, they keep saying it's his project when it's not his project. Technically, it's the project of the Heritage Group. They're the ones who wrote it, not Trump.
Why? Here's a question for you. Why did Trump pass through 50% of what the Heritage Foundation wanted to do in his last term? Over 50% of their previous projects he agreed with and he put through. You think he's not going to do it again with this one?
On that, I can't debate it because, like I said, I don't know all the information as far as previous stuff. I'm just going by what's going on now, what I've seen today, and what I've heard today, and then all the information that's going on. So as far as him with previous projects, I don't know anything about that, so I'm not going to try and attempt to debate you on it because, again, I have no knowledge of it, and that's just me being honest. So I don't want to try and argue about something when I haven't fully researched it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just feel like Trump is very clearly lying, and like people just refuse to kind of see that. They just sort of trust everything he says, even though he has a history of just like outwardly lying. I never said I actually
trust like everything he says.
So wouldn't you, if everyone this person surrounds himself with works with this group, if his own vice president works with this group, if he's spoken for this group and said how much he likes this group, if he's told this group that they were going to shape the policies going forward, if he has if he has taken 50% of what this group previously wanted and put it into play, why would the one thing I believe out of his mouth go, well, I have nothing to do with them now? Why would that be what I believe?
Well, again, I mean, what you're saying, it sounds compelling, everything else like that, but I'm specifically going by the wording that Kamala has used specifically, which is Trump's Project 2025. You know, and again, Trump, there's no evidence saying that he created it, that he wrote it, that he's pushing for it. That's the misinformation that I'm talking about that's getting spread around. I could see how, like I said, you yourself and a lot of other people are trying to tie him to it based upon, you know, people
The
working,
reason why he's
who used
being
to work
tied
for
to
him,
it
currently
is that
working for him, and are
the
part
reason
of
why
it.
the reason why he's being tied to it is this won't go into play unless he's elected. This is the plan for if he's elected. So this is why it's called Trump's Project 2025. His name is in Project 2025 like over 100 times. The plan is directly tied to him being elected.
Okay, well, I'll have to research that later. So, what about the national ban on abortion that he was talking about?
Yeah, well, so
So
Republicans
I'll concede
in
on the Project
office.
2025. I just want to talk about the other things because I feel like we could probably talk about one subject on and on and on. So
Well, Republicans in
let's go ahead and
office
go to
have
the
stated
national.
that they want to put in a vote congressionally for a federal abortion ban. And Donald Trump has been asked, quite frankly, if he's going to veto that bill, and he has refused to answer it.
This federal abortion ban, what exactly are the specifications when it comes to it?
Well, it would be a ban. I think what they're trying to put in is a 6-week ban at the federal level.
Okay,
So that would
so it's not talking about
supersede.
banning abortion altogether. It's just
Well,
what,
6 weeks might
after
as
6
well
weeks?
be 6 weeks might as well be a federal ban altogether. A lot of people don't know they're pregnant 6 weeks in.
Well, I kind of disagree with that, but I'll I have my own opinions when it comes to that. I mean, me personally, unless it's the exceptions, I don't really believe in abortion. I mean, I feel like
So you don't think it
nowadays
should
it's
be a
kind of being
state? You don't think it
abused.
should be a state decision? You think the federal government should regulate against it?
I don't think the federal government should regulate it against it, but I do believe that there should be some kind of regulations against it, especially
But
after a
that's what
certain
they
number of
want. They
weeks.
want the federal government to regulate it.
Okay, when you say they, who exactly are we talking about? We're talking about Trump and the Republicans, because you said
House
Trump refused to
Republicans,
answer
all 100%,
something, but
100% of House Republicans. So specifically in March of 2022, the Republican Study Committee, represents 100% of the House Republicans. So that's 100% of Republicans in Congress. Put out a budget,
okay,
and in this budget, it endorses rolling back national abortion protection. It endorses rolling back the IVF. It endorses a whole bunch of other stuff. Multiple other people have said that they want an abortion ban. What's his name? Not Lindsey Graham. Who's the other one that I can't? Mitch McConnell has stated that actually, I think it was Lindsey Graham, has stated that they would vote in a federal abortion ban. So if Republicans in Congress decide that they want to restrict abortion in this way, and they receive, they get the majority of Congress in the House, so they push this through, and it's been voted on, yes, by the Republicans in the House, and it gets to Trump's desk. What will Trump do? Will he veto this ban or not? Because he has not made a claim. Yes, he's been asked this question point blank, and he's refused to
okay.
answer it.
Well, technically, on the debate and everything else, he said he doesn't want to do any kind of ban. I mean, those words came from him already. He already answered that. He said he would not put a federal ban on it. He said he gave the power back to the
he
states.
has said that he would not, and he would push the power back to the states. But when asked what he would do if Congress, because it doesn't matter what he would do, right? It doesn't matter if he wouldn't sign a federal ban into place via like executive order, right? The question being asked is if Congress pushes this through and the Senate pushes this through and it gets to his desk, will he veto it or not? And he did not answer this question.
I would say since he's already confirmed that he doesn't believe in the federal ban himself,
then why didn't he just say, yes, I would veto it?
On that, I'm not sure. But again, if I'm going by your logic of what's been said and everything else, if he's confirmed already that he will not put in place a federal ban
He's
on
never
abortion,
wait,
then wait,
he's never
one
confirmed
second,
what he
one
would
second, please.
do if Congress put it through. He's only said I
Yeah,
all
but
he ever says is I put it back to the states. He has never once said what he would do if Congress passed an abortion ban. Not one time.
right, but by his stance on putting it back to the states, doesn't that mean that he would make sure that the federal government doesn't actually get
No,
involved
all
in it,
putting
that
it
he would
back to the
keep it
states
out of
means is that
the
he
federal
repealed Roe
government?
v. Wade. No, all putting it back to the states means is he repealed Roe v. Wade.
Right, but again, if you go by what he said and his beliefs, then I would assume, based on that, that if it were to be placed in front of him, he would in fact veto it.
Then why
But
didn't he
again,
just
I
say that?
mean, there's no way to confirm it. You're right. He didn't actually confirm it himself, but I'm just going by what he has actually said. And I would like to go back to, again, and this is what I mean by like a lot of these politicians, everything else, especially Kamala, the way they word things is what has everyone kind of second guessing her and everything else, because she said Trump would put a federal ban on abortion. Again, specifically Trump. She didn't say the Republicans. She didn't say the whole government, anything else like that. She keeps saying Trump will.
It
And that's
seems
what a lot of people are having issues with
it seems weird
in
to me that
general
we
when it
care
comes to
more
stuff like
about
that.
her. We care more about her using like hyperbole in the way she's talking about Republican policies and linking all Republican policies to Trump because Trump is the head of the Republican Party than it does Trump doing these things. Like that's what's weird to me. Like why would I care more about her saying this than about the stuff that Trump has like done?
Because she's pushing what she's saying through to all the media, and it's basically being
Because
used as propaganda.
he's the head of the Republican Party. So when Republicans want to do something and it has mass Republican approval, he's linked to it because he's the head of the Republican Party. Just like when Democrats currently want to do something that has mass Democrat approval, Biden is linked to it as the head of the Biden. How many times do they call Bidenomics, even though Biden didn't personally write any of the economic policies that we currently have in place? But it's called
Well, then why did
Bidenomics, right?
Kamala praise Bidenomics and call it Bidenomics herself? I mean, if it's not
Because it's
actually tied
what
to Biden,
because
then why is
when
she tying it to
wait,
Biden
because
and praising it and saying
I
it's the
just
best
told
thing that's ever happened?
yeah, I just told you why. Because you tend to tie what has mass support in your party to the leader of that party.
Okay, so Kamala is doing to her own party what everyone is doing with Trump and his party?
Yeah, most likely, yeah. That's just how politicians speak.
Okay.
They
Well,
called the
I
ADA
wish I would be.
Obamacare, right? The ADA was called Obamacare for how long? Just because it was passed under Obama? Obama had almost
Right.
nothing to do with Obamacare.
Okay. So
This is just
another
how
thing I'd like to.
politics works.
All right. Well, again, I never said I really agree with politics, and personally, I hate how they word things. I feel like if they would actually be more mindful of how they word things and how they speak and how they declare things, then maybe there wouldn't be so much confusion or chaos. Honestly, that's my opinion, and I say that for all sides, not just one. But anyway, let me move on to something else. So, um, again, in regards to Kamala, like I said, I'm still seeing other stuff that has been debunked that she continues to use. So, for example, I think it was in the debate with Donald Trump, she mentioned something about like Nazis coming out of the woods, raising torches, everything else like that, that whole story. That was debunked. I forget where it was at. I don't know if it was South Carolina or somewhere like that, but she tried to use that and so of a lot of other Democrats, and that was a story that was in fact already debunked well before the debate, and yet she decided to use that again.
So she was specifically talking about the protest that happened in I don't remember fucking where they had like tiki torches and shit. How is this protest debunked?
I think she was talking about like some kind of group who apparently was Nazis or something like that. I think it was what
Yeah,
Charlottesville, Charlotte,
they were white
something like that.
nationalists. White nationalists are Nazis.
It was a specific story in regards to some people marching out of the woods, holding torches, stuff
No,
like
she said
that.
they came out of the woodwork.
Yeah,
That's not the
but the
woods.
specific story she was talking about, from what I read up on, was already debunked as far as the context of it and everything else like that.
It was not debunked. There was a rally held by white nationalists. It was called the Unite the Right rally. There were quite literally Schnazis in the thing, and Donald Trump did quite literally say there were good people on both sides of the issue. How is that
Right,
debunked?
but after that, he also did denounce any Nazis and white supremacists as well.
Cool, then he shouldn't have said there
So,
were good people on both sides, because I don't think there's any good people on the side of Nazis, personally. I don't think
well,
I
I
don't
would
think you
agree
can
as far
be
as the
on the
side of
side of a
Nazis,
Schnazi and then be a good person.
but by saying they were all Nazis though is incorrect because this wasn't just one big Nazi group. So are we talking about the Proud
If
Boys?
you march next to a Nazi, you are a Nazi.
I'm trying to figure out which group exactly we're talking about. Basically, was it the Proud Boys?
There were a bunch of people there. There were white
Right.
nationalists and then a bunch of different right-wing groups. But if you at any time walk next to somebody who is a Nazi, you are also a Nazi. There is no splitting hairs here. If you stand up and are on the side of the Schnazis, you are in fact a Schnazi.
Sorry, I'm trying to look it up right now, just to kind of do this whole thing. Okay, so this is what I'm reading. Joe Biden has repeatedly invoked the false claim that President Trump praised white supremacists in Charlottesville. So let's see. It says President Trump did not call neo Nazis or white supremacists very fine people, and that was the narrative that was being pushed through. Was he basically called them very fine people? It says Trump did in fact condemn neo Nazis at Charlottesville. So the very fine people line that everyone keeps using today, even Kamala to this day, using that as a basis for his racism, that part has been debunked, is what I'm saying. And he condemned white supremacy and he condemned neo Nazis.
Can
So
I
if he
just
were to
ask you
publicly
who are
condemn,
the good people on the side, or who are the very fine people on the side of the Schnazis? Who would they be?
I think, and this is my opinion, again, I'm still kind of reading it as we speak right now, but I think who he was talking about was the people who were trying to peacefully protest,
With
not the
Nazis.
ones who were spouting the white supremacy bullshit and everything else
So
like
the
that. Because
the
me
whole
personally, I can't
so
I
the
can't stand white supremacists or
so
Nazis.
the
I think they're fucking idiots.
so just confirming, the good
But
people are the people that were protesting with the white supremacists and the Nazis, but not the white supremacists and the Nazis. Just the ones protesting with them.
I can't say if they were protesting with the Nazis as far as like they were like for the same cause as the Nazis or anything else like that. Again, I don't know the full story of that. I just know what's been used and what's been debunked. And what's been debunked was, again, Trump didn't call the Nazis very fine people. He condemned white supremacists and he condemned Nazis in general.
He
Now, you
said on
yourself
both
just
he
said that
said there
there
were
was
very
Nazis
fine
there and
people
there were
on both
people on the
sides.
Republican Party there as well.
Wait, if there's very
So,
fine people on both sides, what were the two sides he was talking about?
again, I'm not sure on that one. I can only go by what I've been reading, what I've been researching. But if the narrative itself, if the information that's been used as propaganda and everything else being spread by the Democrats, by Kamala Harris, is that Trump praised Nazis and everything else, that's not actually the case if he publicly condemned them. But everyone keeps saying that he praised Nazis,
I
he's
think
white
he
supremacist,
spoke
all
in
this
a
other stuff.
way in which he could praise them and make it seem like to people that give him the benefit of the doubt that he also condemned them. I think he spoke double-sidedly, and he did both. He praised and condemned them at the same time. But I don't think anybody on their side cares about the condemnation. They care about the praise.
If I go quiet, I'm sorry. I'm at work right now, technically, so I'm kind of keeping an eye on this light, and I'm also just researching in general. So apologize for that. Well, in that particular case, I have to stand by what I think, and I don't think Trump was praising Nazis or white supremacists. I mean, I think by a lot of his actions, I mean, I can't see where the racism is. I know a lot of people like to bring up some story that happened in the 80s or the 70s or 80s, but just by his actions as president, and I would say in the past 10 years, I haven't seen anything that would be indicative of racist or that he supports white supremacists or Nazis.
You haven't
So
seen anything in Trump's history to suggest this.
I said in the past like 10, 20 years, I haven't seen anything like that.
In the past 10 to 20 years.
Past 10 to 20 years, I haven't seen anything that specifically shows him or that has been confirmed, all evidence without a shadow of a doubt, that he's for racism, that he's a white supremacist, or a Nazi like everyone is trying to claim that he is. No.
Yeah, I would just fundamentally disagree with him. I would say I wouldn't just use 10 years. I would look at his whole history as a person. And I would say when we look
Well,
at
if
his
you use
history
full
as a
history as
person,
a person, I mean, I know we're talking about Trump and
how
Kamala and
come
everything else like
here,
that,
well,
but
wait, well then we'll just keep it more recent. How come he still claims that Obama's not a citizen of the United States and that he's from Kenya?
I don't really know much about Obama's birth and history or anything like that, so
Well, we do.
I
He was
can't
born
really
in
answer to that.
Hawaii. He's his birth certificate has been released. You don't think it's kind of racist for somebody to say that the only black president was not born in the US and had to have been born in Kenya, even when the evidence has come out that he was born in the United States? We don't see any like
Where does it say Obama was born?
he released his birth certificate. His birth certificate has been released. He was born in Hawaii. You don't think it's racist for them to perpetuate lies, for Trump and like JD Vance to perpetuate lies that Haitian immigrants are eating pets when it's fundamentally been proven false?
Well, I
And
know
JD
that part
Vance
was
is
proven
even
false. The
okay.
only
You don't think that's
thing
kind of
that
racist?
what does that have to do with race, though? Like as
Why
far as
didn't he?
eating
Why
pets
didn't
and
he
all that.
say? Why didn't he say Irish immigrants were eating pets? Why did it have to be the Haitian immigrants specifically?
Because the main nationality that come into Ohio, the 15,000 people, that was primarily Haitian. They
So
even
you
said
don't think it's kind of
15,000
racist
Haitian
to paint?
immigrants.
You don't think it's kind of racist to paint a group of color as like pet eaters? You don't think that's kind of racist?
I don't know, I guess it could be, but I think he was saying that the illegal immigrants in general. I don't think he was tying pet eating to a
He
specific race.
specifically said Haitians.
He specifically said Haitians, but he didn't. There's a difference between saying those 15,000 Haitians are doing this and that compared to saying Haitians in general do this and that. So those 15,000 illegal Haitians, like he said, they're eating the dogs, eating the pets, which I already know that's bullshit. That's not what's happening. So I'm not debating that claim. But the only thing I know of, though, is that reports did come out that not cats and dogs, mind you, but other wildlife in that area, such as I believe ducks and geese, they were in fact getting killed
We
and
we
used
eat
for
we
food.
eat we eat ducks all the time. What's the issue? People
I
people
think it
hunt
was. I think that
people
in
hunt
particular
ducks
was
and eat
specifically
ducks
tied
constantly.
to the Haitian immigrants,
Okay, but what's the
and not
issue?
like
What's wrong with eating ducks?
I believe in a lot of areas ducks are protected wildlife. I know where I'm at right now, geese and ducks, as far as in certain areas, they're protected. Like you can't harm them. You're not supposed to feed them or anything else like that, especially ones that are around the lakes, bodies of water, things of that nature. So, like here where I'm at, which is in Kentucky, that's kind of a law everywhere, especially around a lot of lakes and stuff. Like
Well,
you are
what
not
we
allowed to
found
harm the
here,
animals
what
in
we
the area.
found, just real quick, is that the Ohio Department of Natural Resources found no proof of Haitian immigrants in Springfield harvesting geese or ducks. So it's just another rumor, another made-up rumor.
Okay. Well, again, that's what I heard. It was the
Yes,
reports that were
I
kind of
know
coming
because
into it.
JD Vance and Trump have been spreading around this rumor, even though JD Vance admitted it was wrong, it was false. He admitted they made it up
Well,
on live
I
TV.
knew the cats and dogs thing was false. I knew about that, so that's
All
why I
of it
said I
has been
wasn't
false.
debating that. But
All of it, literally all of it. Almost everything that comes out of their mouth is false.
okay. But again, with as far as Kamala, I mean, it seems to be the same thing though in that respect, because it seems like they're still spreading the same kind of misinformation, albeit, even if it's just the way they're wording it, like it's still starting to get to a point where things are
It's
getting dangerous.
it's not even close. Kamala Harris saying like Trump supports like white supremacists is such a vastly different claim than Donald Trump and JD Vance saying that a group of immigrants are eating cats. These are not even comparable.
Okay, but what is true though when it comes to illegal immigrants is that when Biden took office, he did in fact undo a lot of executive actions specifically on the border, and based upon the timing of it, as a result of millions upon millions of immigrants started flooding. They started cutting into the parts of the wall that were actually built. They started crossing illegally, and that is confirmed that we've had over 10 million immigrants cross illegally, and they have in fact lost.
Which specific policies at the border did Biden remove that led to this increase?
I would have to look that up, but all I know is that it was executive actions that Trump had put in place that were undone.
So
I
the
believe it
ones
was a
that
high
did,
number that
just
were
real
basically
quick, the
undone.
ones that did was Title 42 and the Remain in Mexico policy. These would have been the ones that saw like an increase in inflation in immigration. But when it comes to immigration, right? When it comes to immigration, the thing that was needed at the border was budget. We needed more budget for border patrol. We needed more budget for
Right.
judges to get through asylum seeking cases. This is what was needed. And this was proposed, and Republicans struck it down. Every time a border bill has come through in the last 4 years, Republicans have turned it down. So I don't care about
Okay.
Republicans'
Let me
fake
ask you
outrage
this
at the
though,
border.
because this is something I actually did kind of read about, but I'd like you to confirm it for me. Just again, you have better access to resources. I'm literally in a truck right now with a cell phone, so that particular border bill that they say that they shot down, like that main one that Kamala was talking about, didn't that border bill also have in it? It was going to supply Ukraine another $60 billion.
Yes, but Republicans voted through a $90 billion Ukraine funding bill 3 months later. So it was not about the funding for Ukraine because they wanted funding for Ukraine. It was just about turning
Right,
down
but
money for the border so that Trump can run on an inflated border crisis. Because if it was the case that what was the real issue was the money for Ukraine, they wouldn't have approved more money for Ukraine 3 months later. They wouldn't have done
okay,
that.
but didn't the bill also? And I'm gonna try and be quick about this. I'm sorry. If I'm a truck driver, so I'm waiting for this green light. If I do get a green light, unfortunately, I will have to get off here. So I'm just letting you know that if I hang up, it's not me like intentionally hanging up on you. It's just once we get the
Okay.
green light, we gotta go. But in the bill itself, though, they made the claims of the whole further opening pathways of citizenship and granting amnesty and everything else like that. What were the details specifically in regards to that? What exactly would it have done in those aspects?
Of like it would have what they were talking about was like adding judges to get through asylum cases. So they would have made it easier for asylum cases to be put through, so you're not waiting upwards of 12 months for your asylum case to get brought to the government. It would
Okay.
also well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm opening back cigarettes right now. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, well
So,
that's the big thing for making it easier to immigrate. Like they didn't really put any provisions for like making the actual process of immigration easier. It was just about the judges.
well, I mean, it was a long bill.
Yeah, there
So
was a
you
lot of
said that it
stuff
was
in
just
there.
about
There was
judges
a
and
lot of
making amnesty
provisions.
seekers.
Wait, there were a lot of
Um,
provisions for Border Patrol to receive more funding and
right.
more training. There were provisions to restart the border construction on the border wall. There were revisions for judges. Like there were a lot of stuff in the bill. I agree, but the bill was written by Republicans. Republicans then denied it because
Yeah.
they want an artificial border crisis.
Okay. So another claim was made that I just want clarification on, the allowing 2 million immigrants a year in the country as a result of the bill. Was there anything in the bill in regards to that? Not necessarily saying we're going to allow 2 million immigrants a year into it, but was there anything in the bill that didn't or would have in fact allowed like, they tried to say an easier pathway to citizenship to where there would be that many people coming in per year.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so that's something that we basically have to confirm. Oh, shit. Um, well, look, you made a lot of good points. I get it. All I can say is, um, honestly, like, I'm still, even after everything I heard, I still feel that I want to vote for Trump, mainly just for the fact that, you know, side by side comparison, the past 4 years on paper and the numbers, they might have seemed like they're getting better, but day to day, everything else like that, I mean, nothing really feels like it's changing for the better. And then plus, with the Democrats and what's being pushed to the media and everything else like that, it just seems like a lot of hate and a lot of attacking. And personally, it just feels like another anti-Trump campaign, just like what it was with Biden and what it was with Hillary. And I feel like that's like the last thing that they're using. It's like a last resort for them. Like it's the only thing that they say nowadays. And if Kamala would kind of talk more about her specific policies rather than saying stuff like opportunity economy, everything else like that, and if she would tone it down on like the hate and the same old anti-Trump stuff, I feel like I would listen more. But when that's their attitude nonstop, I mean, personally, it kind of pushes people away. And I think a lot of people, they're tired of hearing that rhetoric. And that's probably why a lot of people at this point are kind of going for Trump, is because it's just hate, hate, hate when it comes to Kamala, the Democrats, everything else like that. And honestly, we're just kind of tired of it. Like, it doesn't seem like a good way to run your campaign, if that makes sense. But listen, I do have a green light and I do have to go, but I did enjoy talking to you. You made some good points. I definitely want to do more research, especially on some of the things that you discussed, because, I like to be as educated as possible. So I appreciate you taking my call. Um, have a good day.
You too. I don't know, dude. I don't know how many like facts I can give somebody. Hopefully he sleeps on it. I don't know.